Welcome, sleepy soul. I'm your storyteller tonight, here to help you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more bedtime stories. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. And if there's a story you'd like to hear next, I'd love to know that too. I never thought a simple sleepover would be the night that changed everything for me. When I was a kid, Friday nights were sacred. No alarms for the next day, no homework deadlines hanging over my head, just pure, unfiltered freedom. Sleepovers were the best part of that freedom. Staying up all night eating enough junk food to kill a horse, laughing until our stomachs hurt, those nights felt endless. Back then, my best friend was Ethan Walsh. We met in 3rd grade, and by middle school we were practically glued together. Ethan was one of those kids everyone envied. His house was huge, his parents were laid back, and he had all the latest video games before anyone else. But the real gem of his house wasn't the games or the snacks, it was his basement. That basement was like a kid's dream world. A big open space that looped in a circle, with a pool table on one side, an air hockey table on the other, and in the far corner, a little laundry room with a heavy white door. There was a bar, a mini fridge, and 2 massive couches facing a flat-screen TV. We spent so many nights down there that it felt like our second home. That November night started like all the others. It was the start of a 3-day weekend, and my mom dropped me off after dinner. I remember the bite of the cold air when I stepped out of the car, clutching my overnight bag. The Walsh house glowed warmly against the dark, its big windows spilling golden light onto the driveway. Ethan flung the door open before I even rang the bell. "Dude, finally!" He grinned, his hair sticking up like he'd run his hands through it 100 times. "Traffic," I said, rolling my eyes. "Your mom here?" "Yeah, she ordered pizza. Come on, everyone's downstairs already." Everyone was Tyler and Marcus, 2 other guys from our grade. They were already in the basement, controllers in hand, the sound of gunfire and explosions blasting from the TV. The smell of pizza and something sweet, maybe cookies, drifted down the stairs as I followed Ethan. The basement was warm and alive with noise. Music thumped softly from a Bluetooth speaker, and Bailey, Ethan's golden retriever, wagged her tail at me before curling up on the rug. Hours slipped by in a blur of video games, junk food, and laughter. Tyler told some ridiculous story about a teacher getting locked in the supply closet, and Marcus nearly choked on a Dorito laughing. We made plans for the next day. Basketball at the park, maybe a movie later. It was one of those nights that felt so normal, so safe. You couldn't imagine anything ever going wrong. Around midnight, Tyler crashed first. He claimed the couch closest to the TV and pulled a blanket over his head. Marcus wasn't far behind, mumbling something about being done for the night before rolling over and snoring softly. That left Ethan and me still wired, sitting cross-legged on the carpet, controllers in hand. "You ever notice?" Ethan said suddenly, eyes flicking toward the far corner. "How creepy that laundry room looks at night." I glanced over. The laundry room door was cracked open, a sliver of blackness cutting into the warm glow of the basement lights. "Thanks for that image," I muttered. "I'm serious," he said, lowering his voice. "Sometimes I hear stuff coming from there at night." "Like what?" "Like banging or scraping. My dad says it's the pipes or the dryer cooling down, but..." He trailed off with a shrug. A tiny shiver ran through me. "Close it," I said. Ethan smirked, but got up and nudged the door shut. It didn't latch completely, just rested against the frame. We played for another half hour, but I couldn't stop glancing at that door. At one point, I could have sworn it shifted just a fraction. My chest tightened. "Did you see that?" I whispered. "What?" "The door. It moved." Ethan paused the game, eyes narrowing. The door stood still. He laughed nervously. "You're losing it." Eventually, we gave up on gaming and decided to crash. Tyler and Marcus were dead to the world, so Ethan took the other couch near them. I claimed the one by the bar, the one closest to the laundry room. Big mistake. I woke up in darkness, the kind that feels heavy, pressing against your eyelids. No glow from the TV, no light seeping through the basement windows. For a few disoriented seconds, I didn't know where I was. Then the smell of carpet cleaner and cold pizza brought it back. The basement, the sleepover. But something was wrong. The air felt different, colder, stiller, and then I felt it, that prickling sensation on the back of my neck, like eyes were on me. "Ethan," I whispered. My voice sounded too loud. No answer. I sat up slowly. The other couch was empty. My stomach sank. That's when I heard it. Click. A soft metallic sound from the laundry room, like a dryer door being shut gently. My skin crawled. I told myself Ethan was screwing with me. Classic prank. Fine. Two can play that game. I tiptoed across the carpet, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The laundry room door was ajar now, open just enough to show a slice of darkness. I gripped the knob, counted to 3 in my head, and yanked it open. "Gotcha!" I shouted, slapping the light switch. The harsh yellow glow spilled over the empty room. Empty. "Ethan," my voice cracked. No answer. Then I saw it. Through the dryer's round glass door, blurred, tinted, but unmistakable, a face stared back at me. Not Ethan, a man. Curled inside the dryer like a grotesque doll, knees pressed to his chest, eyes wide and unblinking. His face was pale, his lips stretched in a smile that didn't belong to a sane person. For a heartbeat, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then the man's lips moved, just a whisper muffled by the glass. "Shh!" I screamed so loud it tore my throat raw, spun, slammed into the bar stool, and bolted for the stairs. "Ethan, wake up!" I shrieked, taking the steps 3 at a time. The hallway lights flicked on upstairs. Doors opened. Ethan's parents stumbled out, disoriented. Ethan was there too, coming from his bedroom. "What the hell is going on?" his dad barked. "There's a man," I gasped, pointing toward the basement. "In the dryer. There's a man in the dryer." Before anyone could react, a blur shot past us, through the living room and out the front door. Ethan's mom screamed. His dad tore after him in slippers, but it was hopeless. The man vanished into the night. The cops came. They searched the house, the yard, the street. Nothing. All I could tell them was that he wore dark clothes. That's it. No clear face, just those eyes burned into my memory. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep for a long time after. Ethan's parents installed cameras, deadbolts, everything. We never had another sleepover. Not at his house. Not anywhere. Years later, sometimes I wake up in the dark and swear I hear it. That soft metallic click. And every time I see those eyes, that smile, like he knew something I didn't. Like maybe it wasn't the first time he'd done this, or the last. I remember that winter like it was yesterday, December of 2013, when the air outside felt like shards of glass scraping against your skin, and the silence of the nights in our small Oregon town had a way of making you feel both safe and exposed. I was 12 years old, the youngest in a house that suddenly felt much bigger and much quieter than usual. My mom had gone to visit an old college friend down in California for a week. That left the responsibility of watching us to my older sister, Sierra, who was 21 at the time, and my brother, Mason, who was 19. It was supposed to be a fun little break from routine. Sierra had planned a cozy weekend for us. Junk food, movies, maybe a little baking, and absolutely zero homework. At least that was the plan. I can still picture how normal that night began, which makes everything that happened afterward feel like a cruel joke. We had all piled into the living room by late evening. The Christmas tree in the corner blinked softly, filling the room with a warm glow that made the falling snow outside the window look even more magical. Sierra sat curled up on the recliner, scrolling through her phone while Mason came through the front door, carrying 2 large paper bags filled with snacks. His cheeks were flushed from the cold, and the sound of the door slamming shut seemed louder than usual in the winter stillness. "Little Caesars for the win," Mason grinned, setting a steaming pizza box on the coffee table. "Also got you guys Slurpees because apparently I'm the best brother in existence." "Only when you're spending money," Sierra teased, not looking up from her screen. I laughed from where I was sitting cross-legged on the rug. "What did you get for me?" "Blue raspberry, the one you always steal from me anyway," Mason said, tossing me the cup. He ruffled my hair when I caught it, and I swatted his hand away. Chloe and Bella, my two younger sisters, came barreling in from the kitchen carrying bowls of popcorn and candy. Chloe was 10, already acting like she was 15, while Bella at 8 still had that innocent sparkle in her eyes that I envied. They plopped down on the couch, bickering over who got the bigger share of gummy worms. We were all set for the night, a perfect, ordinary Saturday in December. The game was on TV, the kind of background noise you don't really pay attention to unless someone scores. It was during the third quarter, I think, when I first noticed it. It was faint, almost easy to ignore at first. A light scratching sound coming from somewhere behind the walls. I remember tilting my head slightly, trying to figure out if it was just the wind brushing against the side of the house. "Do you guys hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" Sierra didn't even look up from her phone. "That scratching," I said. "Like something in the garage." Mason paused mid-bite into a slice of pizza and frowned. "Probably one of the cats. They sneak in there sometimes." "Both cats are in the basement," Chloe said. "I just saw them. They're sleeping on the laundry pile." That made Mason raise an eyebrow. "Then maybe it's Luna or Rex." "The dogs are in the basement too," Bella added softly. "They were laying by the furnace." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Sierra finally looked up, irritation flashing in her eyes. "It's probably nothing. Wood expands in the cold. Houses make noises. Don't freak yourself out." But the sound didn't stop. If anything, it became more deliberate. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch, like someone dragging their nails across wood, slowly, carefully, testing something. Mason set his plate down and stood up. "Okay, now that is weird," he muttered. "Stay here. I'll check the garage." Sierra got up too. "I'm coming with you." I wanted to tell them not to go, but the words stuck in my throat. I sat there frozen as they walked down the short hallway toward the garage door, Mason flicking on the light before twisting the knob. I followed them halfway without realizing it, my bare feet cold against the hardwood floor. The garage light flickered to life, throwing long shadows across boxes and stored holiday decorations. The ladder to the attic space above the garage was still folded up and leaning against the wall. Nothing seemed out of place, no movement, no sound. "See? Nothing," Sierra said after a moment, her voice firm like she wanted to convince herself. Mason exhaled slowly. "Yeah, must have been, I don't know, pipes or something." But as we turned back toward the living room, I could swear I heard something overhead. A faint shift, like weight on wood. The attic space above the garage wasn't huge, but it was enough to store old boxes and seasonal junk. Mason froze too, glancing upward. "You hear that?" I whispered. "Yeah," he said under his breath. "Stay here." Before either of us could stop him, Mason unfolded the ladder and started to climb. Sierra grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? What if it's—" "What? A raccoon?" Mason shot back. "Better to know now than—" He disappeared into the attic, his head and shoulders vanishing into the darkness above. For a few seconds, all I heard was the sound of him moving things around, his boots scraping the wood. Then silence. "Mason?" Sierra called, her voice shaky now. "You good?" A pause. Then his voice. "Yeah, just a bunch of boxes. Nothing." The sound cut off suddenly, not because he stopped talking, but because something slammed. Hard. A noise like a heavy box tipping over, followed by Mason cursing. "I'm fine," he called quickly. "Just knocked something." That's when we all heard it. The sound of the garage door, our main door leading back to the kitchen, closing, slowly, click. But Sierra was standing right next to me. "What the hell?" Sierra whispered. She ran back toward the door, twisting the knob. Locked. "Mason, did you lock this?" "No." Mason's voice came muffled from above. Wait." The light in the garage went out. Everything happened at once. Sierra yanked me back as the scratching sound returned, louder this time, right above us. I swear I heard a low chuckle, just for a second, before Mason's voice erupted. "Get back! Get—" A loud thud like a body hitting the floor. Then silence. "Mason!" Sierra screamed. That's when the house went completely dark. The TV in the living room shut off. The Christmas tree lights died. The hum of the furnace stopped. We were plunged into a darkness so thick it felt alive. Panic erupted. Chloe and Bella started crying from the living room. Sierra grabbed my wrist so hard it hurt and dragged me toward them. "Basement. Now go." We stumbled down the steps in the dark, our breaths ragged, the dogs barking wildly as if they sensed something we couldn't see. Luna and Rex were at the bottom of the stairs, teeth bared, their growls vibrating through the floor. We huddled in the first basement bedroom, shoving a dresser against the door. Sierra tried calling 911, but there was no signal, no Wi-Fi, nothing. And then we heard it. Slow footsteps above us. Deliberate. Heavy. Each one making the floor creak in a way that felt like it was sinking into my bones. A man's voice followed, calm but deep, almost cheerful. "Ivy, Sierra, Chloe, Bella, Mason." He said our names. Every single one. Then, softly, as if leaning right over the vent in the floor, he whispered, "I brought candy canes." Bella sobbed into her hands. Sierra mouthed, "Don't make a sound." My heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. The footsteps moved down the hall, then back, then stopped. For a long moment there was nothing. Then the sound of the basement door opening above us. The hinges groaned like they were screaming. The dogs went ballistic. I don't remember how long it lasted. Seconds felt like hours. The door we had blocked started shaking violently, the wood cracking as the man pounded on it. "Let me in," he snarled now, voice no longer cheerful. "Don't make me hurt the little one." Rage flashed across Sierra's face. She grabbed the metal pole from the broken bed frame and held it like a weapon. "If he comes in, run," she whispered to me. "Run, and don't look back." The pounding stopped. Silence fell like a trap. Then, glass shattering from the small basement window. A hand reached through, unlocking the latch. Before Sierra could react, Rex lunged, teeth sinking deep. The man screamed a guttural animal sound, and Sierra swung the pole down with everything she had. I scrambled for the stairs, dragging Bella and Chloe with me. The last thing I saw before bolting up was blood, splattered across the dresser, across Sierra's hands. The cop said we were lucky, said if Mason hadn't come to when he did and tackled the guy from behind, it would have ended differently. They arrested him in our kitchen, bleeding from his arm where Rex had torn into him. His name was Daniel Cole, 43 years old, no fixed address. A history of breaking and entering, assault, stalking. They never figured out how long he'd been planning it. But when they searched the attic, they found blankets, empty water bottles, food wrappers. He'd been living above us for days. I'm 24 now, and I still can't sleep without checking every lock twice. We moved out of that house in 2020. The day we went back for one last look, Chloe found something carved into the wall behind the old china cabinet. Words etched deep in what looked like dried blood. "I will come back." Daniel Cole was sentenced to 12 years. That was 10 years ago. Sometimes when the wind rattles my windows at night, I wonder if he still remembers our names, and if he ever plans to keep his promise. I still remember the night like it's stitched into my bones, a scar that never fades no matter how many years pass. Back then, I was 10 years old, 5th grade, too old to be scared of the dark, or at least that's what I told myself. My parents trusted me enough to let my best friend Ethan sleep over that weekend. He was one of those kids who could turn a boring night into something wild just by being around. We had been best friends since first grade, always chasing adventures, even the kind we probably shouldn't have. That Saturday had started out like any other. My mom made pizza rolls for us, we played a few video games, and then we sprawled out on the couch scrolling through Netflix, trying to find a scary movie that didn't look completely fake. The house was warm, lights low, the kind of night where the shadows stretched long and made the corners of the room feel further away than they really were. Halfway through some cheesy horror flick, Ethan got bored. He always did. He was the type who hated sitting still for too long. He turned to me with this mischievous glint in his eye and said, "Dude, you know that old house, the one down near Millbrook Road?" I felt my stomach knot immediately. Everyone in our neighborhood knew that place, the Henderson house. It had been abandoned for years, rotting into the ground like some forgotten corpse. Windows shattered, paint peeling off like skin, rumors crawling out of it like bugs. People said it was haunted. Others said a crazy guy lived there, hiding from the cops. My older cousin once swore he saw candlelight in one of the upstairs windows when he biked past at night. "Yeah," I said slowly, already regretting it. Ethan grinned. "Let's go check it out." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "At 10 o'clock? Are you insane? My mom will kill me." "She's asleep," he said. "Your dad's on night shift. No one's gonna know. We'll take the bikes, be back in like an hour." Every cell in my body screamed no, but Ethan was relentless. He was the kind of friend who made you feel like a coward if you backed down. After a few minutes of him calling me chicken, I caved. We slipped out the back door like thieves, trying not to wake my mom. The air outside was cold, sharp enough to sting my nose. Our breath puffed out in little white clouds as we hopped on our bikes. The streets were dead quiet, only the hum of far-off traffic and the occasional bark of a dog breaking the silence. Millbrook Road was about 2 miles away. In daylight, it would have been nothing. At night, with just our cheap flashlights and the pale glow of the moon, it felt like a journey into another world. The further we went, the fewer houses there were, until it was just dark fields on both sides. My stomach churned with every pedal stroke. "Almost there," Ethan whispered, when the silhouette of the Henderson house appeared in the distance, crouched like a giant spider at the edge of the woods. We ditched our bikes near the entrance of the cracked driveway. My flashlight beam shook in my hand as I aimed it at the house. The place looked worse up close. The roof sagged, the windows gaped like empty eye sockets, and ivy clung to the walls like veins. Across the road, I noticed an old detached garage. Its door hung crooked, and inside, I could see what looked like shelves lined with tools. "I say we hit the house first," Ethan said, already moving. I swallowed hard. "You sure this is a good idea?" "Relax. It's just an old house." He flashed me a grin and pushed on the warped front door. It groaned like something alive. The moment that door opened, the smell hit me. Thick, sour, like rotten eggs mixed with something worse. Something dead. My stomach lurched. "God, what is that?" I gagged, pulling my hoodie over my nose. Ethan just smirked, his voice muffled. "Probably a raccoon or something." The air inside was heavier than outside, like it had been trapped for years. Our phone flashlights carved narrow tunnels of light through the darkness, bouncing off peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. Shadows clung to the corners like spiders. "Creepy as hell," I muttered. "Awesome, you mean," Ethan said, grinning like this was the greatest thing ever. The living room was the first stop, empty except for a tattered couch and a coffee table coated in dust. On the table sat a single piece of paper. I leaned closer, my flashlight shaking. The note read, "Be back soon. Prepare the sauce." I froze. The ink was fresh, glistening under the light. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped a belt around it. "Ethan," I whispered, "someone's been here." "Recently." He frowned but shrugged. "Maybe some kids messing around." But then came the sound. It came from outside, a hollow metallic thud. like something heavy striking a steel plate. My heart leapt into my throat. "You heard that, right?" I hissed. Ethan hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, probably the wind." "The wind?" There was no wind. "Let's just check the kitchen and leave," he said, trying to sound brave. I didn't want to go further, but what was I going to do? Leave him here alone? The kitchen reeked even worse. The counters were covered with old food, moldy bread, shriveled tomatoes, and a slab of meat sitting on a plate. At first I thought it was steak. Then I noticed the shape, ragged edges, too uneven for store-bought cuts. Blood pooled beneath it, dark and sticky. My vision swam. Ethan. That's not beef. Before he could respond, a scream tore through the night. It came from outside, a man's scream, sharp and raw. We rushed to the window, hearts hammering, and that's when I saw him. A man in a clown mask, dragging a body across the dirt. The limp arms, the dark trail staining the ground, it was real. I couldn't breathe. "Oh my God," Ethan whispered, his voice cracking. The clown was heading for the garage across the road. As he stepped inside, the lights flicked on, spilling orange glow into the night. And that's when we saw what was inside. Those weren't just tools. They were saws, cleavers, chains, hooks, all stained dark. A metal table stood in the center, and the clown started cutting the body like it was nothing more than meat for dinner. I slapped a hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. My legs felt like water. "We have to call someone," Ethan hissed, fumbling for his phone. We dialed 911 with shaking fingers, whispering into the receiver, praying the dispatcher could hear us. "Stay hidden," she said. "Units are on the way. Do not make a sound." We ran upstairs, desperate for a hiding spot. There were 4 rooms. We chose the first with a window, thinking maybe, just maybe, we could escape if it came to that. Every second crawled like an hour. Then came the voice. Come out. I have so many toys for you." The clown's sing-song tone slithered through the house, closer and closer. Then, scratch, scratch, scratch. Something sharp dragged across our door. My skin prickled as the knob twisted. Ethan shoved at the window, but it creaked loudly. Too late. The door burst open. The clown lunged in. I didn't think. I just dove through the glass. It shattered around me like ice. I hit the ground hard, pain exploding in my arm, but fear drowned it out. I scrambled to my feet and bolted for the flashing blue lights just pulling up the road. Behind me, footsteps pounded. I risked a glance back. He was chasing me, knife in hand, mask grinning in the dark. A gunshot cracked the air. The clown dropped, screaming, clutching his leg. Another officer dragged a second clown, another one, out of the house in cuffs. Ethan stumbled out behind them, pale as a ghost, but alive. Turns out the Henderson house wasn't haunted. It was worse. The clowns were part of a cult, luring people, killing them, and selling parts on the black market. That steak on the counter? Human flesh. They got life sentences. As for me, I never went near an abandoned house again. And I still wake up some nights heart racing hearing that voice. Come out. I have so many toys for you. I still remember the night that changed everything for me. I was 15 at that awkward age where weekends meant freedom. No parents, no rules, and definitely no curfew. At least that's how it felt back then. My best friend since elementary school, Liam, had texted me earlier in the week. "Parents out all weekend. You coming over Friday night?" It didn't take much convincing. Sleepovers at Liam's were always the best. His house was one of those old 2-story homes on a quiet street, not too far from the edge of town. He had the basement practically to himself, a perfect hangout spot with an old TV, a beat-up couch, and every gaming console you could imagine. By Friday afternoon, I was practically counting down the seconds until I could get there. My parents didn't really ask many questions, just told me to be safe and keep my phone on. I threw some clothes in a backpack, grabbed my bike, and pedaled the 4 blocks to his house. The sky was turning that golden-orange color as the sun dipped behind the houses. I remember passing a few neighbors walking their dogs, the faint sound of kids laughing somewhere far away. Everything felt normal, safe. When I got to Liam's, the house looked the same as always, porch light on, a couple of old lawn chairs out front. But the inside was different without his parents around. It felt weirdly empty, like the air was heavier. He greeted me at the back door with a grin and a fist bump. "Dude, you made it. You ready for an epic night?" "Hell yeah," I said, stepping inside. The place smelled faintly like leftover pizza and fabric softener. We dumped my stuff in his room upstairs before heading down to the basement. That's where the night really started. Junk food spread out everywhere. Sodas stacked on the coffee table. Controllers tangled like vines. We played everything. FIFA, Call of Duty, even some old-school Mortal Kombat. Trash talk, laughter, the whole deal. Time flew. At some point, we gave up on games and started watching a movie. I don't even remember which one. Some superhero flick, I think. We didn't finish it because, like idiots, we decided prank calls would be more fun. Now, for context, I had never done a prank call in my life. Liam was the pro. He had this mischievous streak, always looking for the next laugh. He pulled up a list of pizza places on his phone and went to work, pretending to order 50 anchovy pizzas or asking if they sold sushi. We were crying with laughter. Then it was my turn. I didn't have a plan, so I just punched in a random number. First call, no answer. Second, voicemail. Third, some old lady who immediately hung up. I was about to give up when the fourth number connected. Yeah? That was it. No hello, no name, just, yeah. The voice was deep and rough, like someone who'd smoked a pack a day for 30 years. It startled me, and Liam's muffled laughter in the background didn't help. I tried to come up with something on the fly. Hi. Would it, be okay if I borrowed a wheel from your car?" Liam exploded into laughter beside me. I cracked up too, but then the guy spoke again. "What's your name, kid?" Bob." Silence. Then, "You sure it's not Liam?" I froze. It felt like ice water had just been poured down my back. Slowly I looked at Liam. His face had gone pale. "What the hell?" I whispered. "How does he—" Liam started, but I didn't let him finish. I hung up. "Who was that?" I asked, my voice shaking. I don't know," Liam stammered. "Does your phone show your name on caller ID or something?" "No, it shows my dad's name." "But how did he know mine?" That was the first time I felt something was really wrong. We spent the next 20 minutes on his laptop, trying to figure out if there was any way someone could pull his name from just a phone number. Everything we read said no, unless you had access to some serious database. And Liam was 15. He wasn't on any public records, no social media under his real name. It didn't make sense. I told him we should call his dad, but he panicked. "I'm not supposed to have anyone over," he said. "If I call him, I'm screwed." So we just tried to shake it off, turned the movie back on, pretended everything was fine. It wasn't. About an hour later, right when I had almost forgotten about the call, we heard something. A sound that didn't belong. A soft creak from upstairs. Liam muted the TV. We stared at each other. Then came another sound. The front storm door opening. The knob to the main door started to turn. It stopped halfway, the lock held, but someone was trying to get in. Liam's face drained of color. He killed the lights, and we both crouched low, barely breathing. I crawled to the small basement window and tilted the blinds just enough to peek outside. A man stood on the porch. Tall, broad shoulders. He wasn't wearing a jacket even though it was chilly out. He turned his head slowly and looked right at me. I dropped the blinds so fast they slapped against the glass. My stomach twisted into knots. "He saw me," I whispered. "What do we do?" Liam asked, voice trembling. Before I could answer, we heard the creak of the side gate. The backyard. "Oh my God," I muttered. "The back door, did you lock it?" Liam's eyes widened. I don't remember." I ran toward the stairs that led to the kitchen. The hallway to the back door felt like a tunnel. I was halfway there when I froze. There was a silhouette behind the glass, a man, standing still, watching. My pulse hammered so loud I could hear it in my ears. I backed away slowly, praying he hadn't seen me. But then, the handle turned. The door opened. He stepped inside. I bolted back down the stairs, almost tripping over myself. Liam was waiting at the bottom, eyes wide. I grabbed his arm and hissed, "Upstairs." Now. We moved like ghosts, silent and quick, up to his room, shut the door, crawled under the bed, pulling the dust ruffle down. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. Footsteps echoed through the house, slow, deliberate. Every door opened, every hinge creaked. Closer, louder. Then the stairs. I covered Liam's mouth with my hand because his breathing was too loud. The bedroom door creaked open. Silence. The closet door slid. Hangers scraped against the rod, clothes rustled, footsteps. Closer to the bed. They stopped. We waited. And waited. Then, a scream tore through the silence as Liam was yanked from under the bed. He kicked and clawed, his nails raking the carpet. I lunged, grabbed the nightstand drawer, and ripped it open. My fingers closed around a small knife. I didn't think, I just moved. I drove the blade into the man's back. He roared and let go of Liam, spinning toward me. "Run!" I screamed. We bolted, down the stairs, out the back door. Straight into the woods behind his house. Branches whipped our faces as we ran, hearts pounding like war drums. We didn't stop until we collapsed behind a thick bush. For a moment, there was nothing but our ragged breathing. Then, footsteps. Heavy, crunching leaves, getting closer. We pressed ourselves into the dirt, barely daring to breathe. The footsteps stopped, just a few feet away. Then they turned, moved off in another direction. We waited until we couldn't hear them anymore, then sprinted back to the house, locked every door, every window. This time we called the police. While Liam was on the phone, I turned on the backyard light. And that's when I saw him, standing at the tree line, watching. Then he melted into the darkness. That was the last time we ever saw him. No knocks on windows, no weird calls, nothing, just silence. It's been 5 years. I don't know who he was or how he knew Liam's name. Maybe it was the call, maybe it was something else. But every time I think about that night, I wonder, what if we hadn't hidden fast enough? What if I hadn't grabbed that knife? Would we still be here? I thought it was just a sleepover. I thought birthdays were supposed to be fun. The kind of nights where you laugh until your cheeks hurt, eat so much junk food you feel sick, and stay up whispering secrets long after you're supposed to be asleep. That's what I pictured when I planned my 13th birthday party. A simple sleepover with a few friends. No big production, no fancy decorations, just us hanging out and making memories. It was July 2013, the middle of summer break, and I had spent the entire day buzzing with excitement. Earlier that afternoon, Mom took us into the city, Oak Ridge, about 20 minutes away, for shopping and pizza. My friends Sophie, Amber, Kelsey, and Rachel were with me. Sophie was my best friend since 2nd grade, practically my sister at this point. The others were good friends too, but this was their first time sleeping over at my house. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted them to leave thinking, wow, that was the best night ever. We got home just before sunset. My dad was in the backyard grilling burgers, the smell of smoky charcoal drifting through the open kitchen window. Mom had baked a chocolate cake, my favorite, and even let us decorate it ourselves. By the time the sun dipped low, painting the sky in warm orange and pink streaks, we'd eaten, laughed, and snapped a dozen goofy pictures on Sophie's old flip phone. Everything felt right, happy, safe. The house was a small single-story ranch at the edge of a quiet cul-de-sac. Our street was lined with big maple trees and old-fashioned lampposts that gave off this dim yellow glow at night. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. And tonight, the living room was our kingdom. We dragged in sleeping bags, blankets, and pillows until the floor looked like one giant cushioned nest. Bags of chips, soda cans, and candy wrappers littered the coffee table. A stack of DVDs sat by the TV. Our plan was to watch chick flicks until we passed out. The first movie was 10 Things I Hate About You, then Clueless, then, at Sophie's insistence, Mean Girls. By the time the credits rolled on the third movie, it was after 1 a.m. The glow from the TV cast soft blue shadows across the room, and that strange late-night stillness had settled in. You know the kind, where every little sound feels louder because everything else is so quiet. "Okay," I said, stretching my arms above my head. "That's it for movies. My eyes are gonna fall out." "Liar," Rachel teased, flopping onto her stomach. "You'd marathon like 5 more if we let you." I grinned, but truthfully I was tired. Not that I expected anyone to sleep yet. Sleepovers were 90% whispering in the dark and 10% actual sleep. We killed the main lights, leaving just a small lamp glowing in the corner because Sophie refused to be in complete darkness. Then came the usual gossip, jokes, that stupid which celebrity would play you in a movie game. At some point, someone suggested the zombie apocalypse question. Classic middle school nonsense. If zombies attacked right now, who would survive? "I would," Kelsey declared, sitting up like she was giving a TED Talk. "Because I run track. You guys would be done for." "Excuse me?" Amber shot back, tossing a pillow at her. "I take gymnastics, thank you very much. I could literally backflip over a zombie." "Right," Sophie snorted. "You'd trip on your own ego and die first." We were all laughing when it happened. Knock. One sharp, deliberate rap against the big front window. Instant silence. We froze, every head snapping toward the sound. For a second I thought maybe it was the TV, even though it had been off for 10 minutes. But then came another sound, softer this time. A slow dragging like fingers trailing along glass. "What was that?" Amber whispered, her eyes wide. "Probably nothing," Kelsey said quickly. "Like a tree branch or something." "There are no trees near that window," Sophie muttered. I forced a laugh, trying to sound calm even as my pulse spiked. "It's fine, you guys. My dad does this stuff sometimes. He thinks it's funny to scare me when I have friends over." That seemed to relax them a little. Dad was a prankster. Once he hid in my closet for 10 minutes just to jump out and yell, "Boo!" This had his fingerprints all over it, right? We went back to whispering, though everyone was a little on edge. I was in the middle of telling a dumb story when bang, bang. 2 hard knocks, louder than before, rattled the glass. Amber screamed. Rachel yanked her sleeping bag up like it could protect her. Sophie muttered something under her breath that I'm pretty sure wasn't PG. "Dad!" I yelled toward the window, my voice cracking. "Seriously, knock it off." Silence. No footsteps running away. No laugh. Just heavy, suffocating quiet. Something cold crept up my spine. If it was Dad, he would have said something by now. I stood, legs trembling, and crept toward the window. The curtains were drawn, thick and dark, but a thin sliver of moonlight leaked through. I reached out, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest, and pulled the fabric back just enough to peek outside. And that's when I saw him. Not my dad. Not anyone I knew. A man stood inches from the glass. His face tilted up, catching the pale glow of the porch light. Bald head, thin, barely there eyebrows. A smile that revealed a dark gap where a tooth should have been. His eyes, God, his eyes were wide and glassy, like he hadn't slept in days. I gasped so hard it hurt and yanked the curtain shut, stumbling backward. "It's not my dad," I choked out. It's some guy." That was all it took. The room exploded into chaos. "What?" Sophie shrieked. "Call your parents!" Rachel cried. "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" Amber's voice shook like a loose doorknob. I bolted for the stairs, taking them two at a time, nearly tripping in my socks. My parents' bedroom door was ajar, and when I burst in, Mom was already at the window, speaking to someone outside. "Mom," I gasped. "There's a guy." "I know," she said sharply, holding up a hand to stop me. Her voice was calm but tight, like a rope pulled too hard. I froze, my chest heaving, and listened. The man was asking something in this strange, almost sing-song voice. "Have you seen him? Have you seen Paul? Where's Paul? Is he here?" Paul. That was the name. "I don't know anyone named Paul," Mom said evenly. "You need to leave." He just kept repeating it, over and over. "Where's Paul? Where is he? He was here. I know he was here." Mom's tone hardened. "Sir, you need to leave now. You're scaring my children." He didn't answer right away, just stood there, shifting his weight from one foot to the other like he couldn't stay still. Finally, he turned and wandered down the driveway, disappearing into the shadows. Mom locked the doors. Dad grabbed the phone and called the non-emergency police line. They said they'd send a car to cruise the neighborhood. I went back downstairs to calm my friends, but their fear clung to the air like smoke. We tried to act normal, putting on another movie for background noise, but every creak of the house made us flinch. I thought it was over, but it wasn't, because 20 minutes later, Mom decided to take the car and circle the block, just to make sure he was gone. She pulled out of the driveway, her headlights slicing through the dark. The street was eerily quiet, those old lampposts barely lighting the cracked pavement. Halfway around the block, she saw movement, a figure darting across the road. She slowed, thinking it was a kid. Then the man, the same man, stepped into her headlights and grinned. And then he jumped in front of the car. Mom slammed the brakes so hard the tires screamed. Her heart lurched into her throat. Before she could even speak, he bolted into the woods. By the time she got home shaking, the police still hadn't arrived. We never saw him again. They said he was probably drunk, or high, or just lost. But I can still see his face when I close my eyes. That missing tooth, those sleepless eyes. And I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened the window, or if he'd found Paul. I never thought a simple sleepover would leave scars I still feel today. At 16, life felt safe, predictable. School, friends, laughter, crushes, and the thrill of being just old enough to feel grown but still wrapped in the innocence of childhood. Back then, fear meant forgetting a homework assignment or running late to first period. Real fear, bone-deep, paralyzing fear, was something I only knew from scary movies. And that night, we thought watching those movies would just be a harmless way to kill time. We had no idea reality could be so much worse. It was the first Friday after midterms. Everyone at school had been talking about parties, weekend trips, anything to blow off stress. I wasn't the party type. Neither were my two best friends, Emily and Sophie. We were the stick-together kind of girls, the ones who sat in the corner at dances and whispered jokes until our stomachs hurt from laughing. Emily had the perfect setup. Her house sat on the edge of a quiet, wooded neighborhood about 10 minutes from our high school. Her dad owned some tech company, so the place looked like it belonged in a magazine. Wide glass windows, modern everything, and a backyard with a pool that glowed at night. Her mom was leaving for an overnight work event, and her dad was out of town on business. It would just be us and her 9-year-old little sister, Hannah. "Sleep over at my place?" Emily had said earlier that day, tossing her hair back like it was the most obvious thing in the world. I grinned. "Duh, scary movies and junk food." "You know it," Sophie added, pulling out her phone. "I'll bring the good snacks. None of that low-fat crap your mom keeps." Emily rolled her eyes. "She's not even going to be here, so you can eat all the real sugar you want." We laughed, oblivious to the weight of those words. By 8 o'clock, we were sprawled across Emily's huge sectional couch, a fortress of blankets around us. Hannah had fallen asleep an hour earlier after demanding we paint her nails pink. We were halfway through our second scary movie, one of those old-school slashers, when the house alarm blared. The shrill, metallic wail shattered the cozy bubble we'd built. Emily groaned and muted the TV. Ugh, stupid thing. It does this sometimes. Probably a deer or something. Sophie sat up wide-eyed. Deer set off your alarm? Emily shrugged, padding barefoot across the polished hardwood to the wall-mounted panel. I don't know. Mom says it's super sensitive. I pulled my blanket tighter around me. Sensitive to what? Wind? Emily punched in the code, silencing the alarm. There. Problem solved. But something about the sound had left me uneasy. The alarm wasn't a gentle beep. It was a full-blown someone's breaking-in scream. We tried to shake it off, diving back into the movie, but my ears stayed tuned to every creak of the house, every rustle outside. 10 minutes later, the alarm shrieked again. All three of us jumped. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. Emily cursed under her breath and stalked to the panel again. Okay, what the hell? She stared at the screen. It says motion detected outside pool entrance. I looked at Sophie. She looked at me. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally, Sophie whispered, Could be a raccoon? Emily shook her head. Number it's supposed to ignore animals. My dad had it calibrated for human size only. The words settled like ice in my stomach. Emily forced a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. It's fine. Probably a glitch. I'll reset it. But I couldn't shake the unease. While Emily fiddled with the panel, I crept upstairs to the balcony overlooking the backyard. From there you could see the pool, the garden, and the dark stretch of forest beyond the property. The night was still. Too still. The pool lights cast an eerie glow, reflecting off the water like a sheet of glass. Then, click. The floodlights by the pool burst to life. My heart stopped. Those lights were motion activated. Something had moved down there. Guys? My voice cracked as I called out, backing away from the railing. Guys, the lights just... Before I could finish, the alarm screamed again. Emily ran up, Sophie right behind her. Okay, that's it. We're shutting the whole system down, Emily said, trying to sound brave. But I could see it, the flicker of fear in her eyes. We killed the lights in every room and huddled in the kitchen downstairs. I don't know why none of us thought to grab our phones. Maybe panic does that. It scrambles logic. For a long time, we sat in silence, every nerve taut. Then, thud. Something hit the front door, hard. Hannah whimpered, burying her face in Emily's hoodie. Stay here, Emily whispered, her voice shaking as she led her sister toward the alarm panel. That left Sophie and me alone in the kitchen, staring at the glass back door, the one with the blinds half open. And that's when we heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate crunching against the gravel just outside. Sophie's nails dug into my arm. I couldn't breathe. The footsteps stopped, right outside the door. A shadow fell across the blinds. Then a light, bright, blinding, flashed in our faces. I froze. Sophie froze. We didn't scream. We couldn't. Someone was standing there watching us. The beam lingered, almost mocking, before sweeping away. Then, another crash at the front door. 2 of them. There were 2. I crawled to the door, instincts I didn't know I had kicking in. I yanked the blinds shut and gripped the handle like my life depended on it. Because it did. The man outside jiggled the handle, then pounded on the glass so hard it rattled. For what felt like hours but must have been minutes, they circled the house, slamming doors, trying windows, laughing under their breath. I swear I heard whispering, low and eager, like they were enjoying this. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. No footsteps, no voices, just silence. We didn't move until dawn. When Emily's mom came home, we spilled everything in a rush. She was furious we hadn't called the cops, but by then, it didn't matter. The police came, checked the property, and found footprints, big ones, all around the house. Marks on the doors like someone had kicked them. Probably just a couple of guys casing houses, the officer said. They do it a lot out here. But I know what I felt. They weren't trying to steal. They wanted in. I never slept at Emily's house again. For weeks I woke up sweating, convinced I'd hear glass shatter or see that beam of light on my face. Emily thought I was overreacting. Nothing happened, she said. But something did happen. Because now I know the scariest part of a horror movie isn't the killer jumping out. It's the waiting, the silence, knowing someone is there, and knowing they want you. I didn't think about that night for almost 15 years. Not once. It was buried so deep in the dusty attic of my childhood memories that it felt like it belonged to another lifetime, like a dream you're sure you had but can't fully recall. And then, last week, while sitting on the couch with my partner, it all came flooding back. He had asked me something simple. "What's your cousin like?" "You've mentioned her, but I don't really know her." It seemed like an easy question. I laughed and told him a few funny stories about the two of us when we were kids, like the time we tried to make a haunted house in her garage using old sheets and flashlights, or the summer we got obsessed with Goosebumps books and read them out loud under a blanket fort. Then I tried to describe her in a few words. "She's smart," I said first. "Kind of shy with strangers, and, I don't know, sometimes a little paranoid, I guess." And that's when it hit me, why I thought of her that way. It was like someone had pulled the cord on a projector in my head. Suddenly, I was 10 years old again, standing on a cracked sidewalk in the fading summer light, clutching a plastic bag full of candy while my cousin whispered, "Don't look now, but that man is following us." The summer I turned 10 was one of those endless ones. Days stretched long, humming with the sound of sprinklers and cicadas, the air heavy with heat and possibility. My cousin Hannah was 12, which made her feel so much older, like she belonged to a secret world I hadn't entered yet. She lived in a quiet neighborhood called Brookhaven, right on the edge of town. It wasn't a place with sidewalks full of kids on bikes or families out barbecuing. It was quieter than that, almost too quiet, the kind of place where you always noticed when someone didn't belong. That afternoon, my mom dropped me off for a sleepover. I hopped out of the car with my overnight bag and a stack of Goosebumps books I'd just finished reading. Hannah was waiting for me on the porch, barefoot in jean shorts and a faded t-shirt with a picture of a black cat on it. "You brought books, right?" she asked before I'd even said hello. "Of course," I grinned, holding them up like a prize. "And I brought the one about the haunted mask. You haven't read that one yet." Her eyes lit up. "Yes, we can read it tonight after the movie." We spent the first hour sprawled on her bedroom floor, trading books and talking about which ones were scariest. Hannah had a stereo with a built-in cassette player, and she put on an old tape of The Three Investigators. The narrator's voice was calm and crackly, the sound of mystery layered over the hum of the fan in the corner. Even now, that sound takes me back to that room, the faded purple carpet, the posters on her wall, the faint smell of her mom's perfume drifting from the hall. Around 6, her mom, my Aunt Rachel, poked her head in. "If you two want snacks for your movie, better go now before it gets dark," she said, holding out a $10 bill. "Split it, okay?" $10. To us, that was a fortune. "What should we get?" I whispered as soon as her mom walked away. "Candy, obviously, and chips, and maybe soda if it's not too expensive," Hannah said, already pulling on her sneakers. She had this way of making every small plan feel like an adventure. We left the house a few minutes later, the bill tucked in Hannah's pocket, the sun still high but starting to slide toward the horizon. Brookhaven was a quiet residential area, but just a 10-minute walk away was a big intersection lined with stores, chain supermarkets, a dollar store, and a department store that always looked half empty. People didn't really walk there. You drove. The roads were wide and exposed, with little patches of weeds sprouting through cracks in the pavement. We chatted the whole way, arguing over which candy was better, chocolate bars or sour gummies. The heat was still clinging to the asphalt, making everything shimmer. The supermarket was nearly empty when we got there. We spent way too long in the candy aisle comparing prices and stretching our budget as far as possible. 2 candy bars, a bag of chips, and a 20-ounce bottle of orange soda. We were so proud of ourselves for making it work. We paid, stuffed the change into Hannah's pocket, and stepped back out into the dusky light. That's when everything shifted. "Don't look now," Hannah whispered, her voice suddenly sharp. "There's a man behind us." I froze mid-step. "What?" "Yellow shirt. He was in the store. He's been looking at us." I instinctively started to turn my head, but her fingers clamped around my arm. "Don't," she hissed. "Just walk. Normal." I laughed nervously. "You think he's following us? Why would he do that?" "I don't know," she said, and her voice cracked on the last word. We walked. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. People leave stores at the same time all the time. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, matching ours. The sound grew louder whenever the traffic dipped. I risked a glance at the reflection in a store window as we passed. There he was, a tall man, maybe in his 30s, wearing a bright yellow t-shirt and jeans. He wasn't carrying any bags. His hands were empty. "See?" Hannah muttered under her breath. "He has no groceries. He didn't buy anything." My stomach nodded. Maybe he's going to another store. "Then why is he on this side of the road?" She shot back. "Come on, walk faster." We sped up. So did he. The main road gave way to the quieter streets of Brookhaven. Fewer cars, fewer people. The shadows stretched longer. Every sound felt amplified. The crunch of gravel under our sneakers, the distant bark of a dog, the steady rhythm of footsteps behind us. Hannah was breathing fast now. "Don't go straight home," she whispered. "If he knows where we live?" "What do we do then?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "Turn left up here, toward the park." We turned. So did he. At that point, even I knew it wasn't a coincidence. Hannah grabbed my wrist and squeezed hard. "Run." We ran until my lungs burned, the bag of candy thumping against my leg, the soda bottle slipping from my sweaty hand and clattering onto the pavement. I didn't even stop to pick it up. Behind us, I heard the man's footsteps quicken. Not running, but walking faster, like he knew we wouldn't get far. We tore through the side streets, cutting corners, trying to lose him. For a second, I thought we had. Then I saw him again at the end of the block, his yellow shirt glowing in the dim light like a warning sign. "Come on!" Hannah yanked me toward a row of hedges. We crouched behind them, gasping for air, trying not to make a sound. For what felt like forever, we stayed there, listening. Nothing. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, on the other side of the hedge. Hannah's hand clamped over my mouth before I could gasp. We stayed like that, frozen, until the sound faded. When we finally made it back to her street, it was full dark. Her porch light was on. We sprinted the last block and slammed the door behind us, hearts pounding. Aunt Rachel looked up from the couch. "What on earth?" "Girls, what happened?" "Nothing," Hannah said too quickly, her voice shaking. We ran because it was getting dark." She didn't tell her. Neither did I. That night, we didn't read Goosebumps. We didn't even watch the movie. We just sat on our bed in silence, the bag of candy untouched between us. At some point, Hannah whispered, "He knows where I live now." I wanted to tell her that wasn't true, that he was just some random guy. But the words wouldn't come. Hours later, long after the house had gone quiet, I got up to get some water. I passed by her bedroom window and froze. Outside, under the weak glow of a streetlight, stood a figure in a yellow shirt, just standing there, facing the house. I blinked, and he was gone. Or maybe he had never been there. To this day, I don't know. I never told anyone that part, not even Hannah. We never spoke about that night again, but I think about it now. About the man in the yellow shirt, about how close he followed, about how quiet the neighborhood was, how empty the streets were, how easily he could have. Sometimes I wonder if he really left when we thought he did, if maybe for a moment he stood there in the dark, watching the house, memorizing it. And I wonder what would have happened if Hannah hadn't noticed him first. I was 8 years old the summer everything changed. Back then, life seemed simple. My mom had just split from my dad and money was tighter than ever. She found this tiny old house on the edge of town. It wasn't much, one of those places with peeling paint, uneven floors, and doors that never quite closed right. But it was ours. My mom called it a fresh start. My sister and I called it the shack, though not to her face. The house had one redeeming feature: the backyard. It was huge, way bigger than anything I'd ever had before, and it came with an above-ground pool and a wooden deck that creaked when you ran across it. For 2 kids, that was paradise. There was also a tall wooden privacy fence around the yard. It made the backyard feel like our own secret world, cut off from everything else. My sister's name was Kayla. She was 12 at the time, 4 years older than me, which meant she thought she knew everything. We shared a tiny bedroom, bunk beds crammed against one wall, a single dresser against the other. There was barely room to walk, but Kayla didn't care because she got the top bunk. She always got the top bunk. I was a curious kid. Nosy, as Kayla liked to say. The first thing I did when we moved in was explore every inch of that backyard. And the fence. The fence fascinated me. It was tall, but some of the boards were loose enough that if you climbed on them, you could peek over into the neighbors' yards. That's how I met the boys next door. They lived kitty corner from us, in a bigger, nicer house. Their names were Dylan and Luke. They went to my school, though Luke was a grade ahead of me and Dylan 2 grades below Kayla. They were friendly enough, and before long it became a routine. I'd climb onto the loose plank, peer over, and talk to them while Kayla hung out behind me, pretending she was too cool for it even though she always stayed to listen. That's how we met Randy. Randy was their uncle. He was in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, though at the time I couldn't have guessed an adult's age to save my life. He was always around doing yard work or fixing something in their driveway. He was one of those guys who seemed normal, friendly even. He'd joke with us, ask about school, tell us stories about when he was our age. Kayla liked him too. We'd chat through the fence like it was nothing. Looking back now, there were things I should have noticed, like how he never really talked to anyone his own age, or how he always seemed to be out there when we were. One time he tossed a basketball over the fence by accident. When we offered to get it for him, he waved us off and hopped over the fence like it was nothing. I remember thinking how easy it looked for him. At the time, it didn't feel like anything. Now I wonder if he was testing something. It was Kayla who slipped up. One afternoon, when the sun was sinking low and we were leaning on the fence like always, she mentioned that Mom worked nights sometimes. I didn't think anything of it. Randy just nodded and said, "That must get lonely." Kayla shrugged, and we moved on to talking about school. Nothing seemed different. Until the night everything changed. It was late. Mom was at work and the house was quiet except for the hum of the old box fan in our bedroom. I don't know what time it was, late enough that the crickets were loud, the way they get in the summer. I was dead asleep when I woke up to a sound I didn't recognize. A soft, uneven tapping, then a low voice. "Kayla. Hey, Kayla. Open up." I froze. My heart started pounding. I thought maybe I was dreaming, but then I heard it again, clearer this time. A man's voice right outside our window. "Come on, Kayla, let me in." I sat up in bed, my chest tight. Kayla was already out of her bunk, her feet hitting the floor. She pressed her finger to her lips when she saw me, her eyes wide and shiny with tears. She had the phone in her hand, her voice shaking as she whispered into it. "Yes, 911. Please, someone's outside my window." The voice outside got louder, angrier. The tapping turned into pounding. Kayla, open the damn window, I just want to talk. That's when I realized who it was. Randy. He circled the house, his footsteps crunching on the gravel outside, his fists slamming against the siding. Doors rattled, windows shook. He kept calling for her, his voice rising, slurred with something I didn't understand back then, but now know was rage. Or maybe something worse. Kayla locked our bedroom door and crouched next to me on the bottom bunk, still whispering into the phone. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just held onto her arm and tried to make myself small. The pounding went on forever. By the time the cops got there, he was gone. Of course he was. All he had to do was hop that fence. The police knocked on his door, but he denied everything. They said there was nothing they could do without proof. Mom was furious. She started having us sleep at our grandpa's house when she worked nights. And for a while, things were quiet. Years passed. I stopped talking to the boys next door. Randy became a name we didn't say out loud. I thought we were safe. I was wrong. The second time was worse. Kayla was 15 by then, and she had a few friends over for a sleepover. It was summer again, sticky and hot, and they were all piled in the living room playing board games and eating junk food. I was in my room, half asleep when I heard a scream. I ran out and saw all of them huddled together on the couch, pale as ghosts. "What happened?" I asked. Kayla's friend pointed to the sliding glass door. He's right there." I looked. The blinds were mostly closed, but one had been broken for weeks, leaving a narrow gap. Through that gap, I saw a face, pressed against the glass, staring in. Randy. For a second, none of us moved. Then everything exploded. Someone grabbed the phone. Someone else yanked the blind shut, but it was too late. We all saw him. The cops came, but just like before, Randy was gone. Jumped the fence, vanished into the night. That was the last straw. We moved out within a month. Mom got a restraining order, which the judge granted because Randy didn't even bother to show up. We never saw him again. Not until years later, when I looked him up online. Turns out Randy's in prison now. Not for us, for something else. Something worse. And the scariest part? Sometimes late at night, I wonder what would have happened if Kayla hadn't called 911 that first night. If the lock on the sliding door had been broken. If we hadn't moved when we did. I think about that a lot. I still remember that night like it was burned into the back of my mind, the kind of memory that crawls out when the room goes quiet and you're alone with your thoughts. Back then, I was 12, 6th grade, old enough to feel like you know everything, but still young enough to be completely naive. I had 3 best friends, Rachel, Maya, and Sophie. We were inseparable, the kind of friends who made pacts about growing up together, going to the same high school, marrying guys who were best friends so we could all live on the same street. That was us. Sleepovers were our ritual. Every other weekend, like clockwork, one of us would host and the rest would pack their duffel bags with pajamas, snacks, and the latest teen magazines. Our parents all knew each other well, so nobody worried much about safety. Honestly, back then, I thought bad things only happened to people on the news. This time, the sleepover was at Rachel's house. She had the coolest house out of all of us. Not because it was big, it wasn't, but because her family was fun. She had 2 older sisters and an older brother, and unlike most siblings, they didn't act annoyed by us. Her sisters were in high school, and we thought they were goddesses with their lip gloss and loud music. Her brother was 16, kind of quiet but nice enough. That Friday night, the plan was simple. Movies, snacks, late-night gossip, and probably a few prank calls if we got bored. But there was something different about this weekend. Rachel mentioned, very casually, that her cousins were staying over too. I didn't think much of it when she said it. Family visiting, no big deal. But that detail, their presence, ended up changing everything. The sleepover started normal enough. I got to Rachel's around 6, my mom chatting with hers in the driveway while I dragged my bag inside. Maya and Sophie were already there, sprawled across Rachel's bed, laughing about some dumb inside joke I'd missed. The air smelled like buttered popcorn and fabric softener. Rachel's room was our little haven, posters of boy bands plastered on the walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, and a nightstand stacked with nail polish and friendship bracelets. I dropped my bag and joined the chaos. What did I miss? Nothing, Maya said, smirking. Just Sophie trying to do the worm and looking like a dying fish. Shut up. Sophie threw a pillow at her and we all dissolved into giggles. It felt good. Safe. I wish I'd held on to that feeling longer. Rachel popped her head back into the room after talking to her mom. Okay, so my cousins are here, just so you know. Cool, I said without thinking, digging through my bag for pajamas. Rachel hesitated, like she wanted to say more, then just shrugged. Yeah, they're in the den with my brother. If they bug us, we'll just stay in my room. Are they our age? Sophie asked. Rachel shook her head. Number one's a girl, like 14 maybe. The other's older. He's like 17. Older guy, huh? Maya teased, wiggling her eyebrows. Rachel made a face. Trust me, he's weird. I remember the way she said that, quiet, like she didn't want to explain. I should have asked more questions, but we didn't. We just laughed and moved on, throwing on a movie and eating way too many gummy bears. For a while, everything felt normal. It was around 10 p.m. when I went to the bathroom for the first time. Rachel's house wasn't huge, but the layout was kind of strange. Her room was down a hallway with the bathroom halfway down, and her brother's room at the end. The den where the cousins were staying was on the other side of the house, so I didn't expect to see anyone. But when I opened the door, someone was sitting in the dark. I froze, hand on the light switch, because at first I thought I was imagining things. But no. There was a person sitting on the closed toilet, knees apart, hands hanging loose, head tilted just slightly, staring at the floor. The light clicked on, and he looked up at me. A boy. Stringy, dirty blonde hair, pale skin, sharp cheekbones. He was thin, almost fragile looking, but something about him made my stomach twist. His smile came slow, like it had to crawl up his face. Sorry, I blurted, shutting the door so fast it rattled. I stood there in the hall, my heart pounding like a drum. Why was he just sitting there? In the dark? Before I could decide whether to run back to Rachel's room or just pretend this never happened, the door opened. He stepped out calmly, like nothing about this was weird. You can go in now, he said. His voice was soft, but there was something off about it. Thanks, I mumbled, trying to sound casual. I should have gone back. I should have walked away. But instead, I went in and locked the door, my hands shaking so bad I could barely turn the lock. The entire time I brushed my teeth, I kept thinking, why was he in there? Why didn't he lock the door? Why didn't he turn on the light? When I opened the door again, he was still there, waiting. Let me walk you back, he said. Before I could respond, he grabbed my hand. His skin was warm, too warm, and slick with sweat. I didn't say a word, just walked, heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. The hallway felt like it stretched for miles. When we reached Rachel's room, he let go. That slow smile again. Good night. Then he walked away. I stood there for a second, my legs shaking, before I slipped back into the room. Why do you look like that? Sophie asked immediately. I told them everything in a low voice, and Rachel's face went pale. I told you, she whispered. He's strange. What do you mean strange? Maya pressed. Rachel hesitated. He's just off. Like, ever since they got here, he's been trying to hang out with me instead of my brother. He goes in my room, touches my hair sometimes. I hate it. Touches your hair? Sophie repeated, disgusted. Rachel nodded, hugging her knees. If I move away, he gets this look, like he's mad, but then he smiles. It's creepy. We all fell silent after that. The laughter from earlier was gone, replaced by a tight knot of unease in my stomach. But we tried to shake it off, tried to act like everything was fine. It wasn't. We weren't allowed to lock doors during sleepovers. Rachel's mom was strict about that, so we piled blankets on the floor and tried to sleep. The glow of the nightlight made everything look softer, safer. I think I dozed off for maybe an hour before I felt someone shaking me. It was Rachel. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. "He opened the door," she whispered, twice. I sat up, my skin crawling. "What do you mean?" "He just stood there, watching." Her voice cracked. I didn't even have time to process before the door opened again, slowly. No creak, no footsteps, just a shadow sliding into the room. We froze. The only light was from the moon, but I could see the silhouette of his head poking through the doorway. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. I held my breath so hard my chest ached. Then, soft laughter, almost like a breath. "Hey, Rachel," he whispered. The door closed. Rachel clutched my arm so tight her nails dug into my skin. Neither of us moved for what felt like hours. He didn't come back. But we didn't sleep again either. When the sun finally came up, I felt like I'd survived something, though I didn't understand what. My mom picked me up early, and I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't, because that night changed everything I thought I knew about feeling safe. When my mom picked me up that morning, I didn't say anything. None of us did. We just exchanged these tight, uncomfortable looks, like if we spoke about it, we'd make it real. But the truth is, it already was real. For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake it. The sound of his whisper, the way the door opened so slowly, like he had all the time in the world. Every creak in my own house made me jump. I kept my bedroom light on all night and still barely slept. 2 days later, Rachel called me. Her voice was flat, shaky. "Did you tell your mom?" she asked. "No," I said. "Why?" She was quiet for a long time before saying, "Don't." Something about the way she said it made my stomach knot. "Rachel, what happened?" Another pause, then, so soft I almost didn't hear. "They're still here." I sat there gripping the phone like it was a lifeline. "What do you mean still there?" "They were supposed to leave Sunday, but my mom said their parents needed a few more days. He keeps..." Her breath hitched. "He keeps coming into my room at night. He sits on the floor and just stares." I woke up, and he was by my bed. My heart stopped. "Did you tell your mom?" "She doesn't believe me. She said he's just trying to bond." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her to call the police, but we were 12. 12-year-olds don't call the cops on family members. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Every sound made me think of that slow smile, that whisper in the dark. 3 days later, Rachel stopped coming to school. Her mom told everyone she was sick, but Maya swore she saw her once, through the car window in the pickup line, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for days. Then suddenly, their cousins left. No explanation. Rachel came back to school the next week, quieter than I'd ever seen her. She wouldn't talk about what happened, no matter how much we asked. Eventually, we stopped asking. By 8th grade, we weren't really friends anymore. She transferred to a different school halfway through the year, and that was that. Except sometimes, I'll be scrolling through Facebook late at night, and I'll see her name in some random post. Every time my stomach twists, because all I can think about is that night, the whisper in the dark, the shadow in the doorway, and wondering what else happened after I left. I never told my mom. None of us did. But I still think about it even now. And every time I do, I remember his face when he grabbed my hand in that hallway. That slow smile, like he already knew something I didn't, like he knew he'd be back. I still remember the sound of the wind that night, soft, almost soothing, like it was lulling the whole town into a false sense of security. I was 12 years old then, and if you'd asked me what the scariest thing in life was, I probably would have said failing a math test or striking out in baseball practice. I had no idea fear could feel like a living thing, crawling under your skin, hollowing you out from the inside until you can't even think straight. That night changed everything. It started so normally that sometimes when I replay it in my head I want to scream at my younger self, at how safe I felt, how innocent I was, how much I laughed before everything went wrong. My parents had split 6 months before. It wasn't messy like on TV, no screaming matches in front of me, no plates shattering, but it was still ugly in its own quiet way. Dad moved out. Mom started working double shifts at the urgent care to keep us afloat. Our old house with the big backyard and the tree we used to climb became just a memory. We moved into a smaller 2-story home in a neighborhood that looked safe on the surface but had this undercurrent of loneliness, like everyone there was pretending their lives were perfect when they weren't. Mom did her best to make it feel like home. She hung up family pictures, cooked my favorite dinners when she had time, and always asked about school, even when her eyes were heavy with exhaustion. I tried to be strong for her, but I missed Dad. I missed the way things used to be. That's why I looked forward to that weekend so much. My best friend Ryan was coming over for a sleepover, the first one since the divorce. He was the kind of friend who made you forget your problems, the kind who could make you laugh even when everything felt gray. We had it all planned. Pizza, movies, video games, staying up as late as we could without my mom losing her mind. Just 2 kids being kids, in a world where nothing truly bad could happen. Or so I thought. Ryan showed up around 5, stomping snow off his boots like he was trying to kill it. He burst through the door with that goofy grin of his and a backpack that looked like it was about to explode. "Dude," he said, shaking his hair like a wet dog, "it's a freaking blizzard out there." My mom was like, "You better text me when you get there, like I'm trekking through the Arctic." I laughed, taking his coat. "You're such a mama's boy." "Whatever." He grinned and unzipped his bag. "Got the goods, though." Inside were 2 bags of chips, a family-size pack of Oreos, and a Game Boy Advance with a link cable. "You're a legend," I said. "Don't I know it?" Mom came out of the kitchen then, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she had that soft smile she saved for when I had friends over. "Hi, Ryan," she said warmly. "You hungry?" "I'm about to order pizza." "Hi, Mrs. Carter. Pepperoni?" "You got it." She winked. "Hot chocolate later, too. Extra marshmallows." Ryan shot me a look that said, "Your mom's awesome." I grinned back. The evening unfolded like every sleepover I'd ever dreamed of. We ate too much pizza, watched Home Alone for the 100th time, and had a ridiculous argument over which starter Pokemon was the best. For the record, it's Squirtle. Don't at me. By 11, Mom kissed my head and said, "I'm turning in, okay? Don't stay up all night." "We won't," I promised automatically. She gave me that look, the one that said she didn't believe me but didn't care enough to fight it, and disappeared into her room. Ryan smirked. "So, midnight Pokemon battle?" "Obviously." We set up in my room, the storm whispering outside, and for a while life felt perfect again. I don't know what time it was when I woke up, but the first thing I noticed was how cold it was. Not the normal winter chill, bone-deep cold, like the kind that makes your teeth chatter even under blankets. The second thing I noticed was the silence. No hum of the heater, no creak of the house settling, just this heavy, suffocating quiet pressing against my ears. I sat up, shivering, and glanced at Ryan. He was out cold in his sleeping bag, his face half buried in the fabric. My mouth was dry, like sandpaper. I figured I'd grab some water and check if the heat had gone out, so I slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the door. The hallway was darker than I remembered, shadows pooling like spilled ink. Downstairs, everything looked normal. The digital clock on the microwave blinked 12:47. The air was warmer down here, almost stuffy compared to upstairs. I gulped a glass of water and just stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. When I went back upstairs, the cold slammed into me again. I crawled under the covers, pulling them to my chin. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. deliberate. At first, I thought it was Ryan, but the sound wasn't coming from his side of the room. It was coming from beneath me. My brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe the vent? No, the vent was across the room. Maybe my imagination? Maybe. Ryan, I whispered. Nothing. Ryan. Louder this time. He stirred, rubbing his eyes. What? Stop breathing so loud, I said, my voice shaking. There was a pause, then a sleepy laugh. Dude, I'm barely breathing. Yes, you are. You sound like Darth Vader. Ryan sat up, annoyed. What are you? He froze. I'll never forget the way his face changed. 1 second, he was annoyed. The next, his eyes went wide, his skin drained of color, and his gaze dropped down. Holy shit, he whispered. My stomach dropped. What? He didn't answer. He just scooted back so fast he slammed into my dresser, knocking over a stack of comics. I turned, slowly, and that's when I saw him. There was a man under my bed, a grown man. He was lying on his stomach, his long, greasy hair framing a pale, hollow face. His eyes were locked on mine, wide and glassy, and his lips were curled into the smallest smile. But what froze my blood was his hand, pressed to his lips in a silent shh. For a second, I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. Then he spoke. Software calm, almost gentle. I know your mom, he whispered. I'm just here to see her. The voice didn't match his face. It was too soft, too steady, like he'd practiced saying those words. When he started to crawl out, something in me snapped. Ryan! I screamed, my voice breaking. Ryan was already moving. We bolted for the door, tripping over sleeping bags and each other. Behind us came the rustle of sheets, the scrape of wood. We tore down the hall, socks sliding on hardwood, and crashed into Mom's room. The door lock, the pounding fists, the police sirens, the open window in the spare room, the bag they found, the note inside. I didn't see the note until years later, cleaning out Mom's things. 5 words in shaky block letters. Tell him I'll come back.